a wedding, my husband twirled Clara like she owned him. When a guest joked, "Isn't your wife jealous?" Ethan grinned and said, "Wife, please. She's dead weight, just a boring roommate with a ring." The table erupted in laughter, even Clara hid a smile. My chest didn't burn, my heart went ice. I didn't argue. I slipped off my ring and whispered, "This is the last laugh you'll ever get at my expense." Then I walked out. Before I tell you how that night changed everything, comment if you've ever felt small in love. Hit like. So I know I'm not alone. Because what happened after I walked out will shock you. My name is Hannah. I'm 32. We were married for 4 years together for almost 7. And then there's Clara. Clara is Ethan's so-called best friend since childhood. I used to laugh at how close they were thinking it was harmless. I told myself it was cute that he had a female friend he treated like a sister. That's what he always said, she's like family. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe a lot of things. In the beginning, Ethan and I looked solid from the outside. We had a nice townhouse in the suburbs, 2 cars in the driveway, and steady jobs. He works in sales, smooth talker, the type everyone calls charming. I'm a graphic designer, quieter by nature, someone who works long hours but values peace at home. On paper, we were fine. But paper doesn't tell you about the cracks. Paper doesn't show you the moments where you feel invisible in your own marriage. I can tell you exactly when I started noticing. It was after the wedding glow faded. Suddenly, Clara wasn't just Ethan's old friend. She was always there. Late-night texts, inside jokes that I wasn't a part of. I'd ask who was messaging him at 1 a.m. and he'd shrug it off. It's just Clara. She had a rough day, and just like that, my feelings were dismissed. Like I was the one overreacting for not wanting my husband to be glued to another woman's phone at midnight. I kept trying to be understanding. I wanted to be the cool, trusting wife. I'd tell myself, if he wanted to cheat, he wouldn't be so open about it. But deep down, I felt the shift. Every time Ethan told a story, Clara's name popped up. Clara said this. Clara recommended that restaurant. Clara thinks we should try this new place. Slowly, I stopped being his partner. I became the audience to their duet. One moment burned into me happened around our 3rd anniversary. I had spent weeks planning a surprise weekend in the mountains. I booked a cozy cabin, arranged everything down to the firewood and wine, because Ethan used to love quiet escapes. I thought it would remind us of how we fell in love, long hikes, stargazing, cooking together. When I showed him the reservation, his face was flat. He didn't smile, didn't say thank you. The next day, he came back saying Clara had suggested a resort by the coast and it would be way more fun. Not maybe we should think about it. Not what do you want, Hannah, no. He had already canceled the cabin and booked the resort. Just like that, my plan, my effort, my thoughtfulness erased by Clara's opinion. We went to the resort and I wish I could say I enjoyed it. But I spent most of the time watching Ethan text Clara pictures of the beach. He even sent her a video of us at dinner, joking that I should have brought you instead. He thought it was funny. I smiled with my teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. That's when the truth started pressing in on me. I wasn't his wife in the way a wife should be. I was his stability, his safety net, the one who paid bills on time and made sure the house was stocked with groceries. Clara was the one who got his spark, his energy, his attention. I didn't blow up. That's not me. I don't scream. I don't throw things. I hold it in. But I started planning, quietly, a different kind of planning. Because I knew if I ever hit my breaking point, I didn't want to be caught helpless. The first step was knowledge. I called a lawyer, Mark, a friend of my cousin who handles family law. I told him everything in a 90-minute consultation. He explained my rights, what was mine, and how to protect myself. The townhouse was bought in my name with my money before Ethan and I even got engaged. That was my lifeline. Mark told me to start separating finances, so I did. Slowly. Without making it obvious. I opened a new account at a different bank, funneled most of my income there, and left just enough in our joint account to keep Ethan from noticing. I wasn't running yet, but I was building an exit. And as I was doing this, Clara became even bolder. She'd show up at our place unannounced, dropping off homemade soup for Ethan when I was working late. She'd tag him in posts that should have gone to me, anniversary quotes, cheesy memes about soulmates. Ethan would laugh and show me like it was harmless. I would smile on the outside and die a little inside. I remember one night I finally asked Ethan straight up, "Do you ever see how much space Clara takes up in our marriage?" He rolled his eyes and said, "You're imagining things. Stop being insecure. Clara's always been here. If you can't handle that, maybe the problem is you." That was the night I stopped hoping he would ever choose me over her. By the time the wedding rolled around, the one where it all ended, I already had my plan in place. I didn't know the exact moment I'd use it, but I was ready. And when Ethan looked at me across that table, laughed with Clara, and called me dead weight, it was like a switch flipped. Not rage, not tears, just certainty. That was the moment I knew the marriage was already over. All I had to do was execute. The anniversary trip was when the ground under me shifted for good. Ethan, my husband at the time, didn't even realize what he'd done. Or maybe he did and didn't care. I had spent weeks planning something special. A quiet cabin in the mountains, just us, no distractions. I booked the place with money from my account-packed board games we used to play, and even found the little trail where we'd once gotten lost and ended up laughing in the rain. I thought it would remind us who we used to be before Clara took up so much space in our lives. When I showed Ethan the photos of the cabin, his response was a shrug. Not a smile, not a thank you, just looks kind of boring. The next day, he came home grinning. He said Clara, his so-called best friend, had told him about a luxury coastal resort that was perfect for couples. He had already booked it. My stomach dropped. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't even a discussion. It was Clara's idea, and therefore, it was the final decision. My effort, my intention, my voice, none of it mattered. I remember staring at him across the kitchen island thinking, "Did you even think about me for a second?" But I swallowed the words. If I argued, it would only turn into him calling me paranoid or insecure. I had learned the pattern. I bit my tongue, packed my swimsuit, and went to a resort I never asked for. The trip was torture. Ethan spent more time with his phone than with me. He sent Clara photos of the ocean videos of the lobby, even a picture of me at dinner with the caption, "Wish you were here." Clara replied with laughing emojis and hearts. He showed it to me like it was some inside joke I should laugh at too. I smiled with my lips tight, but in my head, something broke. That was when I realized I wasn't his partner. I was a placeholder, a prop, the wife on paper while Clara got the attention, the energy, the excitement. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a fit. Instead, I made a choice I would stop begging for scraps of respect. I'd start preparing for freedom. That night, while Ethan snored beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios. If I walked away, what would I need? Money, legal security, a plan. That was the night I decided to stop being naive and start being strategic. The first step was protecting myself. I scheduled another meeting with Mark the lawyer I had quietly consulted before. He explained things clearly. The townhouse was in my name, bought before marriage, which gave me leverage. He advised me to start moving my income to my separate account and to make a clean record of all joint expenses, so Ethan couldn't claim I'd left him high and dry. I followed every word. Each day I took small steps. I funneled more money into my private account. I created a password-protected folder on my laptop with copies of all important documents, house deed, bank statements, my retirement account. I bought moving boxes and hid them in the garage behind gardening supplies. Ethan never noticed. He didn't pay attention to things that weren't about him. The irony is that Ethan thought I was passive. He thought silence meant weakness, but silence gave me space to prepare. When he mocked me in front of people, I didn't clap back. When Clara's name filled our conversations, I didn't fight. Outwardly, I looked like the quiet, boring wife. Inwardly, I was building my exit brick by brick. The breaking point wasn't just about Clara or the resort. It was about Ethan showing me over and over that my presence was optional in his life. He wanted the stability of a wife, but not the respect of a partner. That realization hardened me. I'll never forget one small moment that sealed it. We were back from the resort, sitting in the living room. I asked Ethan if we could have a weekend without Clara, just us. He laughed, not kindly, but in that dismissive way he always did, and said, "You're too sensitive. Clara's not going anywhere. If you can't accept that maybe you're not cut out to be with me." I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't even cry. But inside, I thought, you're right. I'm not cut out to be with a man who treats me like a backup plan. That was the day I mentally divorced him. The paperwork would come later, but in my heart, it was over. I was just waiting for the right moment, the undeniable proof, the final straw to pull the trigger. And that moment arrived at the wedding. The night he danced with Clara ignored me completely and told a group of strangers that I was dead weight. That wasn't just an insult. It was a confession. He thought I was nothing. He thought I had no power. But the truth was, by then, I already had everything in place. My finances, my lawyer, my plan. So when Ethan grinned at that table and threw away our marriage with a laugh, I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to fight. I just needed to walk out and finally execute the plan I had been building in silence for nearly a year. When Ethan humiliated me at that wedding, it didn't feel like the world was crashing down. It felt like clarity. He thought he'd made me small with his words, but what he really did was give me permission to leave without a second of doubt. The second I walked out of that ballroom, it wasn't heartbreak guiding me anymore. It was procedure. I went up to the hotel room, quiet as a shadow. Ethan was still downstairs, twirling Clara, soaking up the laughter. I didn't touch the minibar, didn't even sit down. I went straight to the dresser, slipped off my wedding ring, and placed it on top like it was a piece of costume jewelry I'd borrowed for a role that had finally ended. For a long moment, I just stared at it. My chest wasn't heavy. It was light. That tiny gold band had been the heaviest chain I'd ever worn, and taking it off felt like breathing again. Then I packed. Not in a rush, not frantically, just calm, deliberate movements. Dress folded, makeup bag zipped, shoes in the side pocket. Every item clicked into the suitcase like I'd rehearsed it. Because in a way I had. I'd pictured this moment in my head so many times that when it finally arrived, my body just moved. I rolled the suitcase to the door, took one last look at the room, and walked out. At the front desk, I checked out of the hotel without a word. The receptionist asked if I'd enjoyed my stay. I smiled politely and said it was exactly what I needed. Then I got in my car and drove home in silence. No music, no phone calls, just the hum of the engine and the steady beat of my own heart. For 40 minutes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, peace. When I reached my townhouse, I switched into execution mode. Step 1, secure the property. I walked straight to the smart home control panel in the kitchen. Ethan had his own profile with access codes, fingerprints the works. 2 clicks and he was gone. His access deleted. His key fob dead. Then I went to the garage and manually reset the entry code. 5 minutes later, Ethan was locked out of my home, and he didn't even know it yet. Step 2, cut off the money. Ethan loved our joint bank account because he treated it like his personal fun fund. Dinners, out, surprise gifts for Clara. New gadgets he didn't ask me about. He thought it was endless. It wasn't. That night, I logged in and transferred every last dollar into my private account. Then I froze the credit card he carried, the one I'd stupidly given him a supplementary card for. A few clicks, and it was gone. If he tried to buy a drink that night, the machine would decline. Step 3, remove him from my space. This was the hardest part, not because it hurt, but because it was so much work. Remember those moving boxes I'd hidden in the garage? I brought them in, set them up, and started boxing his life away. Every shirt, every shoe, every razor blade on his side of the sink. I wasn't angry. I wasn't crying. I felt detached, like I was a property manager clearing out a tenant who'd skipped rent. Box after box, labeled, neatly stacked in the garage. By the time the sun came up, 42 boxes stood there, sealed with tape, filled with every trace of Ethan. My house finally looked like mine again. Clean, quiet. At 3 a.m., I sent a 2-word email to my lawyer, Mark Filet. Then I shut the laptop, crawled into bed, and slept harder than I had in years. The next morning, my phone lit up like a slot machine. First, a casual text from Ethan. "You left early, thought you were just tired. I'll see you at home." I ignored it. An hour later, another text. "My card isn't working. Did you forget to pay the bill?" I smiled and turned my phone face down. Then came the call loud and panicked. "Hannah, I'm locked out. My key fob isn't working. The code isn't working. What the hell is going on?" I answered that one. "I know," I said. Just those 2 words. "What do you mean you know? This isn't funny. Let me in." His voice cracked like a teenager's. "No," I said, flat as stone. "What do you mean? No, Hannah, stop being crazy. Open the damn door." I could hear Clara's voice in the background, shrill and uncertain. She can't actually do this. She wouldn't. That almost made me laugh. They thought I wouldn't. They thought silence meant weakness. "I heard you, Ethan," I said. "I heard every word you said last night about me being dead weight, about me being boring. So consider this me making things a little more exciting for you. You're free now. No boring wife. No boring house. Just you and Clara, exactly what you wanted." He stammered, denied, begged, claimed it was a joke, claimed I was overreacting, claimed I was ruining everything over nothing. I didn't budge. "All your things are in 42 boxes in the garage," I said. "A moving company will pick them up tomorrow and take them to a storage unit. It's prepaid for 3 months. I'll text you the address. After that, it's your problem. The joint account is closed. The credit card is canceled. The divorce papers will be served Monday. You can't do this," he snapped. "I already did," I replied. Then I hung up and blocked his number. That was phase 1, and it felt flawless. Ethan didn't disappear quietly. Of course he didn't. Men like him, people like Clara, they don't know how to face consequences. They only know how to twist the story so they're the victims. The day after I locked him out, my phone lit up with missed calls and messages. At first, it was irritation. Ethan acting like I'd made a silly mistake. "Hey, Hannah, I think something's wrong with the house system. Can you reset it? I can't get in." He thought it was a glitch. Then the panic set in. "Why is my card declined? Are you messing with the bank account? This isn't funny." Then the anger opened the door. "Hannah, I'm serious. You can't just lock your husband out." By noon, the tone had shifted from him to them. Clara started calling from her number. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Hannah, I think you're confused. Ethan told me what happened. You must have misheard. He was just joking at the wedding. You're overreacting. You need to stop this before you regret it." I listened once, saved it, and moved on. Then came Ethan's mother. A long emotional voicemail about how disappointed she was in me, how I was humiliating the family, how Ethan was devastated. I almost laughed. Devastated. The same man who twirled Clara like she was the bride. The same man who called me dead weight in front of strangers. If he was devastated, it was because for the first time he wasn't in control. By evening, the narrative machine was running full speed. Friends of his started sending me texts. "Why did you throw Ethan out?" That's abusive. One even accused me of being violent, saying they heard I lost it at the wedding and embarrassed him in front of everyone. That was Clara's hand at work. She was always good at playing the sympathetic victim. I could see her spinning the story, poor Ethan stuck with a crazy, jealous wife who couldn't handle his female best friend. They underestimated me again. They thought I'd chase people down to defend myself. They thought I'd waste my breath explaining begging people to see my side. No, I didn't need to convince anyone with words. I needed proof, and I knew exactly where to get it. See, weddings in 2025 are basically live streamed. Everyone films everything. I remembered Ethan's cruel little speech the moment that froze my heart. Somewhere in that ballroom, someone had their phone pointed at the bar. All I needed to do was find it. The obvious choice was the official videographer, but that route was messy and expensive. Instead, I thought of the bride's younger cousin, Maya. She couldn't have been more than 19, and I'd seen her glued to her phone the entire night, recording every dance, every toast, every laugh. I looked her up on Instagram, found her easily. She'd already posted clips from the wedding. I sent her a message. I told her I was putting together a little memory book for the bride and groom and wanted to collect candid clips from the night. She was thrilled to help. Within an hour, she'd sent me a link to a shared folder with all her videos. I spent the next hour scrolling through shaky footage of people dancing, clinking glasses, laughing too loudly. And then I found it. Maya had filmed a group on the dance floor, but in the background, perfectly framed and crystal clear, was the moment at the bar. I could hear the woman asking, "Isn't your wife jealous?" Ethan's grin, his smug voice saying, "Wife, please, she's dead weight. Just a boring roommate with a ring." Then the laughter. Clara's fake smile, the whole group treating my marriage like a punchline. 10 seconds. That was all it was. 10 seconds that justified every decision I had made. 10 seconds that turned all of Ethan and Clara's lies into dust. I clipped the video and saved it. That was my silver bullet. I didn't blast it online. That's not my style. Public drama wasn't the goal. Precision was. I made a list of recipients, the bride and groom, Ethan's parents, Clara's long-term boyfriend, and a few mutual friends who mattered. I wrote one short message. I know you've been hearing stories. Here's the truth. This is why my marriage is over. I attached the clip and hit send. Then I turned my phone on silent, set it face down, and went for a long walk. When I came back, the messages were waiting. One from the bride, furious at Ethan for turning her wedding into a circus. One from Ethan's sister, apologizing to me and calling her brother an embarrassment. And one from Clara's boyfriend, short, sharp, final. "Thank you for showing me this. She won't be coming home tonight." For the first time, Ethan and Clara weren't the ones controlling the story. They weren't laughing at me, whispering behind my back, spinning lies. For the first time, they were exposed, and that was only the beginning of their unraveling. The 10-second clip did what hours of arguing never could. It silenced the noise. It didn't need context or spin. It was Ethan's own words, clear as day, cutting his marriage apart in front of strangers. And the beauty of it, I didn't even have to send it to everyone. I sent it to just enough people, and the echo did the rest. The bride called me first. She was livid, not at me, at Ethan and Clara. "That was my wedding," she snapped. "They used my reception to humiliate you, to make a joke out of marriage in front of my family." "Hannah, I am so sorry." Her voice cracked on the word sorry, and in that moment, I realized how much collateral damage Ethan and Clara had caused. It wasn't just me. They had turned someone else's celebration into their stage. Then came Ethan's parents. The first time his mother had called, she scolded me, begged me to fix things. This time she was different, shaky, humiliated. I didn't know Hannah. We didn't know he would say something like that. Her voice was small, like she was struggling to believe her golden boy had been exposed for what he really was. She tried to defend him. At first, maybe he was drunk, maybe it was a joke, but the words sounded hollow even to her. She knew. She couldn't deny the evidence. And then Clara's boyfriend, Daniel. His message was only 2 sentences. "Thank you for showing me. She's out of my life." Hours later, I saw he'd posted the clip himself on Facebook, tagging both Clara and Ethan along with a scathing paragraph about years of lies, disrespect, and betrayal. That was the wildfire. Once Daniel made it public, it spread fast. Mutual friends saw it, shared it, commented. The sympathy Ethan and Clara had tried to build evaporated overnight. Their version of the story, me as the crazy, jealous wife, collapsed under the weight of Ethan's own voice on video. The confrontation wasn't face-to-face. It didn't need to be. Every call, every message was the world finally telling Ethan what I had wanted to scream for years. "You are not the victim. You are the problem." He tried, of course. He left me voicemails swinging between rage and desperation. One minute he was furious. "You ruined me, Hannah." Over one stupid comment. The next he was pleading, "Please, let's just talk. We can fix this." I didn't respond. Not once. The silence was my power, and I wasn't giving it up. The real echo came from people I never expected. Ethan's boss called me not to pry, but to say he had seen the video circulating. Ethan worked in sales, a field built on charm and reputation. No one wants to buy from the guy publicly humiliating his wife at a wedding. By the end of that week, I heard through mutual contacts that Ethan had been let go. They phrased it politely, but I knew the truth. His career, like his marriage, had crumbled with a single clip. Clara didn't fare any better. Daniel's public breakup scorched her social circle. Friends she had leaned on for validation backed away. Even her family was furious. Her parents, who had always doted on her special friendship with Ethan, couldn't look past the shame of seeing their daughter smirking in that video while another woman was being degraded. She lost her safety net the same way Ethan lost his. The final confrontation wasn't a screaming match in my living room or a tearful scene at the doorstep. It was watching the two of them stand in the wreckage of their own choices. They had laughed at me together, thinking I was powerless. Now they were the punchline. The echo carried further than I ever intended. Old college friends reached out women I hadn't spoken to in years, telling me they had seen the clip and were proud of me for walking away. One of them wrote, "That silence at the end when you just walked out, that was louder than anything you could have said. I didn't plan it that way," but she was right. Sometimes leaving quietly makes the biggest noise. The best part, I didn't have to smear Ethan or Clara with accusations. I didn't have to scream, "I told you so." All I had to do was hold up a mirror. And when everyone saw their reflection, the cruelty, the arrogance, the entitlement, no one could unsee it. That was the echo. Not just the video replayed on phones and whispered about at dinner tables. The echo was in the silence that followed. The silence where Ethan no longer had defenders. The silence where Clara's name stopped popping up in conversations. The silence where I could finally breathe without wondering what role I was playing in someone else's performance. For years, I had been invisible in my own marriage. For years, Clara was center stage. Ethan was the star, and I was just the background character. But in the end, my quiet, deliberate steps turned the lights on them, not me. And once the truth was illuminated, they couldn't hide from it. That's the thing about echoes. They don't stop when the sound does. They linger, bouncing back over and over until the message can't be ignored. Ethan's words, "dead weight, boring roommate with a ring," they were supposed to belittle me. Instead, they followed him everywhere he went. And every time they replayed, the world saw him for exactly what he was. 6 months. That's how long it took for the papers to be signed, the ink to dry, and the word divorced to officially replace married next to my name. In the grand scheme of things, 6 months isn't long, but for me, it felt like an entire lifetime compressed into half a year. Mark, my lawyer, told me more than once that this was one of the easiest cases he'd handled in years. He said, "When there's a video of a husband publicly denying his marriage, judges don't have much patience for stalling." Ethan tried at first bluster empty demands, a little posturing. He wanted to negotiate, to cling to some illusion of control. But every time he spoke, the video hovered over him like a shadow. There was nothing to negotiate. The house was mine. The finances I'd safeguarded were intact. In the end, he signed defeated because the truth left him no leverage. The fallout for him didn't end with the divorce. His job in sales gone. The same charisma he used to win clients became the same arrogance that tanked his reputation. No one wants to trust their money with the man whose marriage imploded on video. A few friends told me they'd seen him bartending at a dive bar downtown trying to make ends meet. When I pictured Ethan, who once strutted in tailored suits and polished shoes, wiping down sticky counters for tips, I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel pity either. I just felt distance. Like I was looking at a stranger whose choices had finally caught up to him. Clara. She didn't fare much better. After Daniel, the boyfriend she'd strung along for years, posted that clip, her social life collapsed. Her friends ghosted her. Her family pulled back, embarrassed by how she carried herself. From what I've heard, she rents a cramped apartment with roommates half her age, scraping by on temp jobs. The girl who once thrived on being the center of attention is now the subject of whispers. And every whisper begins the same way. Did you see that video? But here's the part that mattered most to me. None of it required me to lift a finger after that night. I didn't smear them, didn't gossip, didn't fuel the fire. I simply removed myself, shared the truth and let their own words do the damage. They destroyed themselves. I just stopped standing in the rubble with them. Meanwhile, my life, it's quieter, different. I sold the townhouse. Too many memories in those walls, his laughter in the kitchen, Clara's shoes kicked off in the hallway during her drop-ins, the echoes of my own silence when I should have been speaking up. I didn't want to live among ghosts, so I sold it and bought a condo downtown. It's smaller, but it's mine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city, and every morning I drink coffee with sunlight spilling across my table. No laughter at my expense, no phones buzzing with Clara's name, just quiet. I filled the place with plants. It sounds silly, but watching something grow because I cared for it, because I gave it light and water feels like therapy. I even picked up painting again, something I hadn't touched since college. The canvases lean against my walls, splashes of color that remind me there's more to me than being someone's wife, someone's stability, someone's background character. Sometimes people ask if I regret not screaming at him that night, if I regret not throwing a drink in his face or calling Clara every name in the book. But here's the truth. My silence was louder than any outburst. Walking out without a word left a scar he'll never forget. Because when I stopped reacting, when I stopped playing the role he wrote for me, he lost the stage. Do I still hear his words sometimes? Yes. Dead weight, boring roommate with a ring. They echo, but they don't hurt anymore. Now they remind me of how far I've come. If being boring means having a peaceful home, financial security, and self-respect, then call me boring. I'll take that label over chaos any day. As for Ethan and Clara, I don't check up on them. I don't stalk their social media. I don't care where they are. If I hear about them, it's through whispers I didn't ask for. And every whisper feels the same, like the universe reminding me I made the right choice. The best revenge wasn't boxing his things or freezing his accounts. It wasn't even the video clip. The best revenge was living in a space that's mine on my terms. Living without waiting for a man's attention or fearing another woman's shadow, living in peace. 6 months ago, I walked out of that wedding, and everyone thought I was the one being left behind. The truth, I was the one walking forward. Ethan woke up the next morning in a strange hotel bed expecting me to be there, but he was already alone long before I left. I just finally made it official. If you've ever been dismissed or disrespected by someone who was supposed to value you most, you know how much it stings. My story isn't just about betrayal, it's about finding strength in silence and walking away with dignity. I'd love to hear your experiences. Share them in the comments because your voice matters here. And if you believe truth speaks louder than revenge, hit like, subscribe, and join me for more stories that remind us we are never as powerless as they want us to think.